Felix here, and welcome to this pre-market live stream. If you're an investor and you're worried about should I buy, should I sell, this is the video for you. I'm going to walk you through the following 7 points. 1, are the tariff exemptions real or did they just get repealed? 2, are you prepared for robotics? Big topic. And then I'll show you the opportunity to retire better. Retire earlier, because right now there is a huge opportunity. I'll show you what I'm buying today, what to watch for this week, that's number 5, my biggest lesson so far, that's number 6, and then we look at live charts together once the markets open of Palantir, SoFi, Tesla, Nvidia, and so on, and that's our number 7. And I'll share my screen with you here. Where is it? There it is. As you can see, the points that we have here: tariff exemptions, understood. Robotics, are you ready? And what the big opportunity is here, what I'm buying, what to watch out for, my biggest lesson, and then the live chart review of favorite tech stocks. And you can, of course, throw in your own, and I'll do my utmost to go through as many as possible. We're, of course, joined by the brains behind the whole thing, Winston, who's done a lot of digging and research here, which is why he looks so exhausted. He's always sleeping when I start these, right? Winston, hey, there he is. You see, he's awake. Just about. Palantir new NATO contract, absolutely. I posted that already this morning if you follow me on X. But are you ready to go through these 7 points? If you are, put a 7 in the chat down below and I'll see that you are ready. I've also found today, which I was very happy about, an old antique brass bell, which I thought was rather sort of appropriate for the market open. Did you hear that? I hope you have that. So there we go. Now, let's get cracking, right? So, the Donald, the president, El Presidente, the orange one, he's posted something, well, lots of 7s here, love you for that, thank you. And smash the like button while you're at it so the algorithm realizes that this isn't complete dross. Now, Donald tweeted, or there was an announcement on Saturday, which I did a video on Sunday, saying there is now an exemption for tariffs on basically computers, PCs. Why have you got this weird purple color going here? It's really odd, isn't it? Let's go for a nice bright blue. So basically, there's an exception on PCs, on chips, on servers, and sort of related stuff. Now, the exception wasn't 0 tariffs. It was going to be 20% tariffs, but that was going to be a lot better than 124%, right? Much better. So we're expecting today the Nvidias and the Apples and the Qualcomms and the Dells to, rally on market open. We'll have a look at that when the market opens in a moment. And then El Presidente, in this infinite wisdom, comes out with this today, saying, there is no tariff exception announced on Friday. These products are subject to the existing 20% tariffs, and they're just moving to a different tariff bucket. Something about fake news. And then he says, and this is the kicker, we're looking at the whole semiconductor and electronics supply chain. Oh, phones were also part of this, by the way. Phones, so your iPhones are safe. They're in the upcoming national security tariff investigations. So they're basically saying there is a window here where tariffs will be lower, but we might raise them again. And that's, of course, going to cause a little bit more uncertainty, a little bit more, unpleasantness out there. And therefore, it's not quite as glorious as we thought it was going to be 24 hours prior. So that's what the Donald's done. And then Lutnick, US Commerce Secretary, comes out with this. He says there will come in a month or so tariffs on semis and electronic equipment. There will also be tariffs on farmers in the next month or two. He's not concerned about the US dollar, which probably means we should be concerned about the US dollar. So, right? Not quite the positive news we wanted. Now, it is still better than a kick in the teeth, and therefore futures are green, pre-market is still looking pretty good, Nvidia particularly, Apple particularly. The Palantir story is unrelated, we'll cover that in a moment. But now you're up to date with what's going on here. Now, could this change? Yes. Trump speaks today at 11 a.m. and again at 3 p.m. So it could flip and flop twice today, which is, who needs entertainment, right? When we've got this president and that. So the question therefore is, well, are you going to buy today or not? I'd urge you to learn the rules that the most successful investors out there have used for decades. I give them to you for free in the form of a 15-minute video in which I've condensed all that knowledge. It's really, really simple to understand. I know thousands and thousands, actually tens of thousands of you have watched it, but it'll help you to not miss out on breakouts. And I'll put the poll out here. Most of you guys are concerned about missing the rally when it comes. So do that, and you'll be much, much smarter, and you won't need to ask some bloke on YouTube, should I buy now, should I not? Because you'll actually know when to buy, and you'll know when to sell. That's the goal of felixprehn.org/get-free. I'll put that link for you in the... Hang on. There we go. I'll put it in the chat. I'll pin it to the chat as well, so you can easier for you to find. And if you want to leave this video right now and go watch that, I would actually be very happy. Almost as happy if a few more of you hit that like button. Now, I talked to you on Friday about robotics, and I said, my conspiracy theory is that this whole thing is about robotics. Because if you want to move manufacturing back to the good old US of A, well, you just haven't got the labor. You haven't got the people who want to do those jobs. And given that they are cracking down on immigration, you're not going to import the labor either. So who's going to assemble all those iPhones, right? And trainers and, knit your sweaters, that sort of thing. Well, what I said was robots, I think. And if you looked at the lineup of the billionaires standing next to Trump at inauguration, who was standing there? It was Elon, massive robotics, obviously, investor. There was Bezos, right? He's got almost 1 million robots working in his warehouses. And then you've got the other two guys, the Google guy and the Meta guy, Zuck, and what are these guys doing? Well, they're investing super heavily into AI, which is, of course, going to power robotics, right? They're going to have to be smart, so you don't have to teach them every single movement. So what does Peter Navarro come out with yesterday, or today even? He says, we're able to build iPhones in the US through more automation, and there's going to be plenty of jobs for robots. Yeah? So maybe I do occasionally have an idea that's right. So I'm looking at robotics very, 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 very seriously. Excuse me. There we go. So why am I saying this is an opportunity to make money? Isn't the market super uncertain? We don't know which way it's going to go. Oh my God, it could go down another 20, 30%. It could, yeah. Any market can always go down 20 or 30%, especially one as volatile as this one. But if you look back at every time this fear index, which is what I keep talking about, known as the VIX fear index, every time that's, excuse me, every time that's spiked like that, I have a mute button now, for example, for coughing, so I don't cough in your ear quite as loudly. Appreciate some of you listening to me on headphones. So every single time that's broken out like that, and this goes back to 1990, the 12-month return, so 12 months later, we were typically up 20%. Were there exceptions? Yeah, there was 2001 and 2008. 2001 because, well, none of those companies in the dot-com boom actually had a thought about how to make money. And then 2008 because we had a major financial crisis. But we are still only down 1.9% in 2008. This isn't a financial crisis. There's nothing wrong with American companies or even the economy particularly. So we're just looking at like kind of a man-made problem here. Yeah, so there we go. So that's why I'm basically saying, I think this is a good opportunity, but I'm still very cautious. And I put a note out to you guys in my community this morning, my mentoring community, to what I'm actually buying precisely. And I want to walk you through a little bit of that. And this is a great chart. If you want to take a screenshot of this, please do, because this is a really, really cool one. So one of the things that is the most widely accepted, pretty much every investor out there will tell you, yeah, this is a really good metric, and it's called ROIC, return on invested capital. And it shows you what that is here for every industry. Maybe it's a little bit small, take a screenshot of it and study it in your own time. And then it shows you where right now, or where the average return sits. And It's the defensive stocks. It's tobacco. It's household products. It's pharmaceuticals. And that's sort of the sector I'm looking at because that's pretty safe. We kind of know what those companies are doing. They've got addicted customers in the case of tobacco. And that's kind of where we're looking at right now. It's just like safe sectors. The other thing I'm looking at right now is, and then I'm going to set up some trade investments or trades today, is gold. Maybe I think 1 or 2 utilities are on that list as well that I put out this morning. And as I say, there are some sort of consumer staples because they are usually pretty resilient. Am I writing underneath myself? No, you can just about see that, right? So I'm not looking at tech. I'm not buying tech. I'm not buying Apple. I'm not buying Nvidia or any of that stuff. That's very, very high risk right now because if you understand the rules, and you look at the chart, and we look at some of those charts together in a moment, you will understand that the big investors are not going to buy that right now because the charts look bad. And until the charts look good again, they're not going to buy it. So it could take a really long time for those guys to recover, unless, of course, there's some massive policy change, in which case we act after the policy change. We don't try to anticipate it because that would be gambling. And that isn't really what investing is all about. Do you buy the gold ETF? I'm looking more at the gold miners rather than gold itself. I think there is, in my opinion, more opportunity there. But yeah, gold looks pretty strong too. So yeah, if you want to learn those rules, please do. Go to felixprehn.com, get free, and you'll actually stop missing out on breakouts, and you stop missing the big, beautiful rallies that happen, even in scenarios like this. And they're not that many right now. Usually they're loads, right? At the moment, they're not that many, but there are still some golden nuggets out there, and it'll show you how you can find those. Now, what do we watch out for this week? Couple of big earnings. The Goldman and the Sachs reported this morning, and we're grateful to them because quite often we get our paws on their research. But I say we, mostly Winston. Winston's got some really good inside friends. They're at banks. They're like, I'm going to slip Winston my research. The other big ones this week is ASML, just for the semiconductor sector, an AI play. That's really, really key. And then Netflix, of course, on Thursday. And maybe Amex, because that's a pretty good indicator for like the more affluent sort of consumer. Now, Netflix won't be announcing user numbers anymore. So we're kind of like, what do we track? Well, see if they see any impact from the economy, see what their outlook looks like, if they've seen anything. That'd be kind of good to see. So again, huge user base, very international business. About 40% of revenue there is from non-Americans. So that'd be kind of interesting to see how they see the world. But yeah, that's kind of the beginning of earnings season here. And then of course, it'll kick off properly, I think the week or two after that. It always starts out with these. TSMC, yeah, it's not on the list here too somewhere. I thought I saw it somewhere. I can't see the logo right now. If you can, well done you. I'm obviously selectively blind this morning. Johnson & Johnson might also be kind of interesting to look at to model. Now, what's my biggest lesson? My biggest lesson is don't lose a lot of money. Okay, again, you might want to take a screenshot of this. If you are down 40%, you need a 67% gain to go back to zero. Right? So what's the lesson? Don't go down 40%. It's just really unpleasant. If you're down 10%, well, it only takes an 11% rally to go back up to where you started, which is more doable. But the worse this gets, like if you're down 70%, you now need a 233% gain. That's pretty hard to do. It's very hard to do, even for the most successful investors out there. So therefore, the number one lesson is always risk management, right? And I'll teach you the exit rules if you watch the masterclass, links down below, and that way it doesn't happen to you anymore. And for me, that's always the first thing I always do with students is like, let's get risk management right first. Before you do anything, before you buy anything, before you think about buying anything, let's make sure your risk management is tight. Let's go through your portfolio and your positions and make sure we're not ever going to have big losses. Small losses are fine. Small losses are normal. Like you will not, nobody is out there who says, oh, I'll never lose money. That would be ridiculous. You will always lose some money, but if it's small amounts, then the gains will easily outweigh that, and that's really what we do here. So I think that's a very useful one. Does that make some sense to you? Does that sort of land for you? If it does, put a G for gain in the live chat, and I'll see that you are listening and that this chart is actually useful to you, because a lot of people don't realize this. So I saw this morning. Lesson number 2 here. Pascal there, thanks for the G's. I'm seeing the G's roll in there, lots of G's. He who blames others has a long way to go in his journey. He who blames himself is halfway there. He who blames no one has arrived. And that's very, very, very true. And I'm seeing at the moment, a lot of people's portfolios are down. People are getting a little bit frustrated and antsy. And I see some, I was going to say nutters, but I just mean frustrated people who lack self-reflection in the comments sometimes. You just throw out sort of ridiculous thing. It's just because they're frustrated. They don't know what to do. They haven't got the rules. They haven't got the systems. And I get that. Someone said yesterday in the chat that apparently my background's fake and that I pretend I'm sitting here and the background's fake, which is kind of interesting. So I thought let me just demonstrate that this isn't fake. You can also see that I wear red shorts with a jacket, which is usually my uniform. So, people come up with some really weird shit to just look outside themselves when really we need to look inside of ourselves. If we're down, if we're screwed up, if we're losing money, it's our fault. It's the lack of skills and knowledge that we have. And yeah, you can blame politicians or education or whatever for that. But ultimately, it's not going to help you because ultimately it's your responsibility to look after yourself and your family. Right? So can you do something about that? Yeah, of course you can. You can just go out and learn. But you have to take a responsibility. Like if you're losing money on a trade, it's your fault. And that's why we build tools like Trade Vision because it allows you to track your trades even after you've closed them, and you can look at the losers and go, well, why did I lose on that? What was my mistake? How can I prevent that? That's the only way you learn. That's how I learned, right? Lots of error. Now, I think you can acquire knowledge and experience from others. I think that's a smarter way of going about it, which is obviously why you can go and watch my my masterclass if you care to. But ultimately, you have to take responsibility. So if you don't, well, you've got a long way to go, as that chap says there. So shall we have a look at some? David says kindly, please ignore those negative jokes. No, and I appreciate that. I'm very grateful. Like 99% of our comments are super, super nice. It's just, you always get that one nutter who comes out and just goes nuts. I had one Muppet, we did a live webinar on Saturday. 4,500 people showed up. Probably got about 100 emails who said how amazing it was. And then one guy leaves like 3 crazy reviews on Trustpilot that are this long and how it's a scam and it was a waste of his life. And I'm like, dude, it was a free webinar. If you didn't like it, you could have just left, right? That's what I would do. But obviously there's something going on in his life that makes him want to like punch somebody, and I'm the lucky one he's punching. So I get it. I get it. People have stuff that goes on in their life, but yeah, take responsibility. That's the best thing to do. Always blame yourself. And if you find yourself blaming somebody else, just sit down for a moment and like maybe write down some notes or something about what's going on there right now. And I hope you get to a place where you are less stressed and actually able to absorb information and actually learn, because in that state, nobody's able to learn anything at all, right? So Rosa says, that's why I just joined the Academy. Welcome, Rosa. Appreciate you for your desire to learn and get better. People complaining, tell us more about them than about you. Yeah, that's always true. That's also always true. Jim Cramer, I blame him. Yeah, okay, that might be an exception to the rule. All right, then let's have a look at the market here. So this is pre-market, looks pretty decent, right? Everything is up. Now, Palantir, that's the one bit of news here that I wanted to get out as well. I tweeted this morning. NATO is done a deal with NATO. So they're using Palantir's Maven smart system to basically run the NATO command operations. And that's good news because it just means every military that is part of NATO, how many countries is that? 25 or something? They will all have to basically use Palantir, get licenses and pay them till the end of time. Or nuclear holocaust, whichever comes sooner. So hopefully the end of time comes sooner. And of course, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Well, you know how much that's worth, but it should be worth a fair bit. So that's definitely good news for them there. Now, I did mention that I'm buying some stocks today. At least I'm actually different. I'm setting up orders, which are buy stop orders. So they don't buy immediately. They go into effect at certain price points. It's a little bit different to just hitting the buy button. But this still has me concerned. The fear index is still way above 20. It's sitting at 32. It's coming down. It's down about 14% out there. And thanks for all the comments on the red shorts. So yeah, we're just down 14%. That's obviously good news. It's moving in the right direction. I'd like to see that drop back to 20. If it happens, then I think that would give the market a lot more stability, and it would basically tell us, hey guys, this is the worst here is over. But we do want to look at some of the key stocks out there. Let's start off with the index, and then we look at the Palantirs and the Nvidias and the SoFis and all the kind of popular tech stocks out there. And where's my chart? Here's my chart. So, and I wrote this to you guys this morning. If you are in my mentoring community, and I share like 99% of the stuff that I do for free. We just have mentors in there, and a bit more, obviously, a lot of one-on-one teaching and so on. But what I'm seeing right now is that I just think this low from Monday, that low, I think, is a pretty good bottom to this market in the short term. Maybe not forever, like, bad shit can happen. But I'm kind of seeing that as I think it's unlikely that we'll go below that right now. So we have this, what is that, 480 or so? Something like that, 481 floor to where we are right now. So, we are recovering somewhat out of that. Might not feel like it, but we are improving somewhat from that. So I'm a little optimistic, but we are still below the major moving averages line. You see, that's the 50, the yellow one up there. That's the 150 moving average line, that purple one up there. So I'd be a little bit cautious still. Now, if we look at individual stocks, say like a Palantir, well, that's actually starting to look really quite good, because we are, and let me just kill the background here. We're now trading at that blue line there. And you see that? So the yellow line here is the 50-day moving average line, 92 there. And let me get a pen so it's a little clearer for you. So we're kind of coming back into like a buy zone for Palantir. That's the 50-day moving average line. And that sits at about $92 right now. Something like that, right? Where is that? $92.50. And we're pre-market, we're trading at $95.60. That's pretty good. So what's the other thing that I'm looking at? Well, always look at the previous high. So you always want to look at, like, where was the last high? And that is going to be some resistance. So that line there, and I'm going to make that green. Because if you go above that, and that sits at, if I'm not mistaken, okay, I need to move this to the other corner. That sits at about 97.75. So 97.75 is bullish basically. So a close. So by that, I mean end of day. I don't mean just popping your head through it once and then coming back down, which is what that green line is here. So let me just change the color as well. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for. We're almost there. There's still like $2 off it or something. But yeah, that's kind of looking at quite a nice development there on the Palantir front. Now, one thing, of course, to pay attention to as well is volume, which at the moment is falling. You want the volume to pick up as you rally up, right? That's really important here. Then it says, should I short Palantir? Did you listen to a word I just said? So yeah, I would be very cautious in shorting defense contractors, which is what Palantir is in this sector. When you have the president coming out and saying we're going to spend an extra $200 billion on defense, and they are slashing a lot of old defense programs, and they're going to spend them on AI and robotics and drones and so on, and Palantir is at the very heart of that, I'd be cautious. Now, are valuations really high on Palantir? Absolutely. But the question is, do you have the patience for that to run itself out? I don't know. I wouldn't go that direction. I would rarely bet against the American defense sector. Actually, I'm going to set up some buy orders on some couple of other defense contractors today, because the whole sector, in my view, is very bullish right now. Now, SoFi, popular fintech out there. SoFi is, well, it's improving, right? So again, that was the Monday low here at 858. That's probably a short-term floor to the whole thing. And then right now we've had a nice rally up. Nice recovery here, decent, right? More today at 11.15. The only problem is that volume isn't picking up. So again, you want a great big green candle here today or tomorrow or whenever. And that's kind of what you want. And you're also going to be moving, and that's something that you're going to see all over Twitter and everywhere else. You're going to get a death cross here, right? So that 50-day moving average line there is in purple, in yellow. And then this is the 150, and they're gonna probably death cross unless we get a major rally here, and that's not very positive. But so we're still in a downward trajectory here, pretty clear one. There was two ways of looking at that. One, you could just connect. Okay, maybe not perfect. Hang on, let me start here. Does that work? It doesn't really work either. Well, this will work. Yeah, that sort of works. So that's kind of the downward trend right now. There is a longer-ish sort of downward trend as well, but I just can't really connect them with a real straight line. It's more like a zone here. That's sort of the downward zone, right? We're not through there yet. We're not out of the woods yet. We will be, well, if we get to 1287 again, or like even 1391 here, which is the recent high, we exceed those and we kind of go back into that zone there. There's a lot of resistance overhead, so be a little bit careful. From a market point of view, the resistance sits at 15, which kind of makes sense because it's these highs here and that whole zone over here. So this whole resistance zone over here, and actually these guys as well, they might all start to sell when we get to $15. So no, I would just say it's too early. Never financial advice, just my opinion, but I would just say it's too early right now. Alpha Charlie says, Trade Vision is the best. Appreciate that, my friend. I'm glad you're getting good value out of that. This is a tool that we built, which is the one I'm using here. So if you were to get access to that, there's a free trial link down below as well. What are the other sort of major stocks we should look at? Nvidia probably. Should really benefit massively from what was just announced today. And it's trading at $114 right now. So it's that, you see that little blue dotted line here, that one? That's where it's trading at, which is the Wednesday high, which is pretty good, but it also shows that the Wednesday high right now is a resistance. So we need a little bit more than that because again, the trend is very negative. We could put another blue trend line in here. The trend is definitely pretty appalling still. We're breaking through that. Let's get through the 50-day moving average line, which sits here at 119. Let me put a little note in there for you. That's a little bit cleaner. So 119 is the 50 MA moving average resistance, and the market resistance also sits at 120. So it's that whole zone, 119, 120. That's going to be a little tough to get through. What happened to my note? 119 resistance from 50 MA. I didn't hit enter, maybe. Maybe that's why. There we go. So still too early. Still too early. And I know people always want to hear, no, this is the breakout. Absolutely. I need this right now. But caution is how we make money. Apple is still hasn't filled its gap here. It's filled. Yeah, it's a nice jump up because Apple is definitely a big beneficiary from the delay in tariffs, but we don't know what's going to happen after this month or two. We don't know how much they're going to put on them. They clearly want to put pressure on the supply chain to make stuff in the US, right? They don't want Foxconn to move from China to India. They want Foxconn to move to the US. That's the question. And they can obviously squeeze them by putting tariffs on them or threatening them. So for Apple, yeah, our resistance is here at 220. That's probably really where we need to get to. I would even argue we need to get to a little bit of a higher level, which sits above that zone there. You see that? So for me, that would be the real, my line isn't exactly straight, but you get the idea. It's here, this whole zone there, right? Which is around $125. That's really where I want to see us break out above before we even look at Apple right now. So that's 225, even 225 resistance right now. And even then, you're probably only going to go back up to like 240 or 245 because you're going to have resistance from up there. So do I like the setup on Apple? Absolutely bloody not. No, I don't. And the market has just opened. We should use our brand new bell. Does that work? It sort of does, doesn't it? Is that really annoying? Probably. Anyway, that'll be happening every day, every single day now. So market is open, which of course is lovely to see. Let's first of all have a quick look at VIX, because that tells us more than pretty much anything out there about what's going on. It's the fear index. It's trading at $32, which is good. It's the very low we had on Friday. Now at 11 a.m. and at 3 p.m., El Presidente is going to speak, and everything could change literally twice in a day. He might announce one thing at 11, and then he might tell you at 3 p.m. that it's going to be the opposite, which is just an interesting playbook to keep investing very, very exciting. That was great. Love the bell. All right, the bell is staying. Sven's asking about the 50 MA. Yeah, I will always wait for that to start sloping up again. So yeah, I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole until it starts sloping up. And you know, there are stocks here that are looking quite interesting. Still, like tobacco, for example, Philip Morris stayed above the 50-day moving average line throughout this whole madness, right? Because smoking kills. No, sorry, it's profitable, very profitable. Buy point, not really, because again, volume is sloping off a little bit here, and we kind of want to take out what we've got here. So say we go back above 162 up there, then I think I'd be very interested. But there is some stuff in consumer staples that is looking a little bit better, and we're very close to highs. And that's kind of what we're looking at today. Some of you are throwing out AMD there, the advanced money destroyer, and we're trading up. It's a gap up. Oh my God, look, it's a gap up, and we're up to $97. We've only destroyed how much money from the high? From the very top to right now, we're down 56%. Ooh. Now, what's the trend? Can anybody see it? You can see the trend. Let me just connect a few dots here for you. That's the trend line. The support, well, it's something like that. Not exactly exact, but you get the idea. So what does that mean? It's a falling knife. It's going to cut off your toes. Don't do it. Step away from the ledge, please. That's what I'm saying. No, it's a terrible setup, and we have no idea if this is gonna last. Judging by the last sort of, dozen attempts to break out, it's very unlikely to succeed. So I will not be touching AMD with a 90-foot barge pole, because it's going to 99% of chance destroy my money, and I don't want to do that. So I wouldn't touch this thing anywhere soon. Archer, ACHR. Okay, tell me what you see. Tell me what you see. Put it in the chat. What do you see out here? As I'm pouring my protein shake all over me. What do you guys see on Archer? Any thoughts, anybody? This is an interactive thing. You have to reply. Otherwise, we're stuck here. We'll be here till the end of time. Need volume, says binaural. Alpha says lower lows. Yeah, downtrend, below 50. Yeah, that's a lot of good comments there. All very, 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 very perceptive. So the first thing to do is always just connect recent lows with a straightish line. Doesn't have to be perfect, but close enough, right? One low, next low, this low, and you can see each one's lower. So what do you now know about the trend? Well, you know the trend is now negative. You can do the same thing with the highs, and you can do, am I allowed? Something like that. Again, it doesn't have to be super precise, like just sort of roughly. Support and resistance is always a zone. It's never a straight line necessarily, but if it is, it's obviously nicer. Ideally, you find 3 points. So what's that saying to you? We're still in that downtrend, right? And then as some of you observed very, very nicely, that yellow line there is the 50-day moving average line. And which way is it going right now? Is it going up or is it going down? Well, right now it's going down, right? And what happens when it goes down? Bad things happen to good stocks, right? So that's not a good thing. And we're below it as well, which means we need to catch up above it from where we are. We need to catch up. That's not a good thing either. So do we like it? No. Sorry, I don't. I think it's too early. It needs to break out of that downward slope before we go anywhere. There's also resistance at $10 from Wall Street. The buggers on Wall Street are going to sell when we get to $10, and therefore I'd be doubly cautious here on that. Now, down hammer. You mean today? Yeah, but it's a bit too early today to tell, like, whether you want to wait for the close to really analyze the intraday candle for that to make any sense. What else should we be looking at here? Anything that's positive? Anything that you guys want to put out that you guys put out a lot? Is Angel a competitor, collaborator? Collaborator. I would argue it's a collaborator. A PayPal. Oh, there is another one. PayPal, I think is the official new name. And what do you see here? It isn't rocket science, is it? I mean, literally just take a line, connect the recent highs, something like that, and you can see which way it's going, right? And you can see that yellow line there, that one, it's the 50-day moving average line. It's sloping really, really, really down. So it is not, by our rules, a good time to buy, right? Tesla. Oh yeah, that's a good one. We haven't looked at Tesla today. I haven't looked at hood in a while. That's true. That's true. We can have a look at the hood in a second. Tesla, well, a little mini bounce here. Sort of a little Elon bounce, 2% up. Is that enough? Yeah. So again, you see the trend? Well, this is the recent trend. You could argue that, we're coming out of the worst of it, like much of the market. So the question is kind of like, which way do we go? Do we go up or do we go down? And that's honestly quite an important question to ask. Do we go this way or do we go that way? Time will tell within a day or two. But it isn't really like, it's not, that's the 50-day moving average line, and that's sort of committing suicide right now. So too soon. I love the fundamental story of Tesla, but right now we're consolidating, and that's sort of a good thing. But we haven't decided which direction we're going to go into yet after that. What was it? Somebody just put out? It was hood, right? Yeah, hood. See can you see little Winston's? Oh, you can't see that. You're missing Winston's tail. Can you see that now? He's dreaming. He's dreaming. This is also a golden retriever show, if you hadn't noticed. He's fast asleep and his tail's going up and down. So he's having nice dreams. He's probably chasing a friend. He met a new dog this morning, sort of a golden retriever of mixed parentage, I would say, who's lovely, and they played for ages. So hood, yeah, nice improvement, but still too early, isn't it? Still too early, because look at the trend line. It's still going down. We're still below the 50-day moving average line, which is the yellow one here, right? That one there. So it still isn't a winner. It's still sort of zigzagging its way downwards, right? Look, that was the low, that was the next low, that was the next low. So each low is lower, each high so far is lower. So we need to break out of the resistance there, exceed $50, and then we'll talk again, okay? Is the base trade taken care of? The bond market? Not necessarily. Winston, any thoughts on the bond market? No, it's not clear. No, it's not clear whether that's taken care of. It's still out there. It's still a bit mad out there. Hedge funds are still screaming for intervention. We'll see if we get it. Any kittens yet? No, but she's getting very large. So I think it's a question of days. By my calculation, they should have arrived. But my calculation is based on Grok. And I don't know what Grok knows about kittens. So they should be coming very soon. Somebody out there put in Free Will says Tom Lee, an actual top analyst, has AMD as a top 30. Yes, the words top and analyst are an unusual combination of words. I mean, I like the guy, but who knows? Fundamentally, I get the story, but just momentum-wise, like where we are right now in the market, it just doesn't make any sense to me. That's just my opinion. People have opinions. That's what the Weathers is all about, right? It's opinions. There was one, somebody just said intuitive surgical, and that kind of intrigued me, because I actually wouldn't mind looking at that myself. Thoughts on Ray Dalio's doomsaying? I think Ray Dalio wants a nice big bailout and a turnaround in policy so that his hedge fund makes more money, right? He's got the biggest hedge fund in the world or something like that. So he's probably heavily in on the basis trade. So there's always a self-motivation. I'm sure he's a very smart guy, obviously. So he's lobbying like everybody. Everyone's lobbying for themselves, right? That's how this works. Intuitive, yeah, not a beautiful story, unfortunately, because we've got that sort of resistance zone here, right? We haven't broken out of that, so we need to move a little bit higher for that to start looking interesting at that. And by the way, guys, if you want to get the analysis tools that I use, support and resistance and so on, there is tradevision.io, links down below. Play with that. If you join us today, you will also get the mobile app for free, which is coming out at a very secret date in the very, very, very near future. I'm already using it. It's looking good. So check that out. Now, MSTR, well, that's really just a crypto play, and I do like it. It's well above the 50-day moving average line, which is quite nice, although losing some steam there rapidly. Are still sort of sloping downwards, isn't it? Is that yellow line there still going down? So we need a little bit more oomph on that to probably above 341 or something like that to start calling this one a buy again. Mobile app, indeed. Dalio read a whole book about it, though I haven't read the book. Does Trade Vision always give a breakout signal when the chart crosses 50 MA? No, you need a lot of volume to it. You need a few other rules to it. And you want to learn those rules? Felix Prehn get free. I'll give you those rules. It's a free 15-minute masterclass where you literally learn the rules that the most successful investors in the world out there use. Dell, yeah, we would expect stocks like Dell to rally on the news today that there will be some sort of softening delay on this. Do you sort of see a downtrend here by any chance, depending on where you want to start it? There is sort of this is not the greatest line in the world, but you kind of get the idea, right? There is a broad downtrend here that has not really been, well, we're definitely not out of that, not out of the woods. So it is too soon to call this one a win. In theory, they should, because people are going to buy more computers and laptops and so on because they need more powerful machines to use AI. They also build server racks with NVIDIA and so on. So yeah, they should in theory do very well, but they haven't. And therefore the market doesn't believing in it. And that's all you really need to know. The chart tells you everything. The chart always knows everything because it's the representation, the visual representation of all the knowledge in the world about the stock. So you actually don't need to do much research. You just look at the chart and it tells you what to do. And at the moment, the Dell chart is telling you to, please don't buy me. That's at least the way I read it. There we go. Pre-market gains wiped out, really, already? Wasn't long. Well, at 11 a.m., the Donald speaks. And then Nasdaq's still up a percentage point. Not massively, but obviously percent is still a percent. It's better than a kick in the teeth, isn't it? Let's have a look if we see any major trades in dark pools this morning as well. If there's anything here. Okay, this was Celsius. It's a bit random. Let me look at everything else. And what I'm always looking at, and this is also in Trade Vision, by the way, if you want to get access to dark pool data, I look at, you see 5 minutes ago, right? It's like live. I actually look at the large trades only because that's really what moves the market. I want to know what the big boys are doing. At the moment, they're mostly bearish setup still mostly bearish. There's a little bit of bullishness in there, but mostly bearish. Tesla, Apple bearish trades here pouring in. And a little bit of an improvement compared to Friday because we had no green at all on Friday pretty much, but it's still largely bearish, right? So yeah, that's a pretty unusual trade there. What the heck did someone do there? What a $410 put. Interesting. So we also tell you like which are the really odd trades here with that unusualness symbol there on the right. So check that out. TSMC is getting punished for earnings. Interesting. Let's have a look. TSMC, it's TSM, isn't it? Yeah, TSM. Where is it trading? It's down 0.5 percentage point. I wouldn't exactly call that. Did it have earnings today? I thought it was on the 17th. Is it today? Yeah, entirely possible, but it's only moving 0.5% there. Scott, okay, I think, yeah, we'll find out when those earnings are. Qualcomm, yeah, that's another one I would have expected to benefit a lot from the sort of delay in tariffs. It's only up 1.5%, so people are not that impressed. What about Apple? Is that still up 6% as it was? 4%. It's given up about 2% of its gains so far. So yeah, interesting morning. Why aren't the big guys investing in defense contractors? Well, something like Northrop Grumman, which is a great name, isn't it? Sort of really rolls off the tongue. I mean, that's a pretty good setup, isn't it? It's a pretty sweet setup. Look at that. Look at that V bounce off the 50 there. Took out the resistance zone here, took out the previous high there, and it's still going strong, which is why that was in my list this morning. So a little bit of resistance here from these highs over there, but that looks really good. And you know, they're going to get a lot of money, these guys, from the whole updating. They got to upgrade the US military, right? From like, we got a lot of old people sitting around shooting people to just make the whole thing autonomous. That's just what's going to happen here. What does Winston think about QBTS? Winston, any thoughts on qubits? Winston, hey. He's not that interested, is he? That would be my opinion. If that was the basis for your investment, I think that probably just killed it, right? Winston says, sleep on it. I think that's what he's saying there. There is our special analyst here, another top analyst there, just like Tom Lee. Rally could be short-lived. Yeah, I think it's going to be choppy. Look, I think the market is going to be choppy. I think I'm a little bit more bullish on the very short term and a bit more concerned about the medium longer term right now, because that's really a lot of uncertainty. But I just think we've seen some lows, we're recovering from them, even though the policy hasn't changed all that much. So I think there is an opportunity here to make some money in the short term. At least that's it. How can we bribe the orange one to take this tariff madness and go away? Well, in a sense, that's the beautiful thing about having very wealthy people in power, that harder to bribe, right? I'm not saying everyone's incorruptible because they have a lot of money, but it becomes a little bit more challenging, because once you get to a certain number, you just care a little bit less about it, right? Like if you offered me, I don't know, $1 million to do something unsavory, I'd be like not interested. Whereas if I had only, you know, $10, then I'd be a little bit more interested. You know what I mean, right? But obviously, look at COVID, right? Enough billions swirling about, and you can still corrupt like a lot of people. So not saying politicians are above corruption. That would be a silly thing to say. There's always corruption in politics. But I don't know. I mean, people really loathe Elon at the moment. I think he's genuinely trying to stamp out corruption. I think he is. And maybe you don't like the outcome. That's okay. I don't have a strong political view. I just don't like government overreach, generally speaking. And there's a lot of waste. There's a lot of corruption in most countries. So I like what they're doing on that front. Not everything that Trump's doing, and obviously what we're going through right now is just a weird world. But it certainly keeps life interesting, doesn't it? Especially if you're an investor. So KMDA, oh yeah, that was one we haven't looked at in a while. Hasn't really recovered yet, has it? No, hasn't really yet. So what was the story with this? Well, look at it this way. You started off with, and I think, didn't we have a nice breakout on this one? Let me turn on the little breakout indicator here. Yeah, there we go. So we had these nice breakouts here, right? So there was one breakout here. There was one breakout there. And then we kind of folded, which isn't actually unusual after breakouts, but we broke through the 50-day moving average here, which was definitely a warning sign. And then we recovered a little bit on very little volume. And if you look at the volume here, it's much higher than the volume was on the recovery. Earnings were not as great as we thought. Big hammer, upside down hammer candle there at the top, which is definitely bearish. bounced off it again, and then we have a gap down here. That was definitely your please, please, please sell me right now sort of thing. Failed rally against the 50-day moving average line here. That was your third or fourth warning sign, and then we really collapsed, gap down below the 150, and now we're struggling to break through that 150 there. So at the moment, this is not a pretty picture. So therefore, I would not be buying this right now. But of course, that is just my humble opinion. Intel, yeah, I'd also stay the heck away from that at the moment. Is Trade Vision just something that works in a browser? It works in a browser. No, we're never going to build a Windows app. I don't understand the point of Windows apps. We are putting out a mobile app very shortly for Android and iOS. But no, it's a browser thing. Tradevision.io. Anything else here, my friends? Otherwise, I think it might be a good time to wrap up here today. Do yourself one favor. Take this madness to do very little, be very cautious. If you're doing anything, do it smaller than you usually would, and learn, because that's really all you can do. And if you have crazy ideas, then do it in a paper trading account, because that way, again, you learn from it with no risk. And watch the masterclass down below, felixprehn.org/get-free, because that way you'll actually learn, share it with other people, so that everybody learns the same rules, and it'll make us all stronger. It'll help to defend your portfolio from what could be a massive collapse. It's entirely possible, but it'll also help you spot the beautiful opportunities that are there. And I'm starting to see opportunities from again, today onwards. And I think there'll be plenty of money to be made in coming weeks, and you just don't want to miss it, right? You just don't want to miss out on that. And you can learn the rules. It's completely free, felixprehn.org/get-free. So you too can get free. And I thank you guys for watching and tuning in. And Winston and I say...